Good morning and happy Married at First Sight Wednesday. I think I've decided that every Wednesday morning I'm going to go live, recap the last night's episode of Married at First Sight, and go through all of the chaos. Without further ado, let's get into it. Last night's episode was a shit show. It was an absolute shit show. I don't think the couples had any indication that they were taking a couples trip to hell. And I think that if they were told that, I don't think they would have gone because we're having divorce papers served. We're having people show up who weren't supposed to, footsie slick across the table. A lot was going on. Now, I will say, me and my friends have been talking, and there's tons of filler episodes in Married at First Sight. The last episode was definitely a filler episode. This episode was a filler episode, but it was a little bit better because we get a little bit more context. But the first half of this episode, we're leading up to the couples trip. And I am going to go through a couple of things just because I think it adds a lot of context to the rest of the episode. Now, I see that only one person is on. Fair, it's early morning. If you're sitting in here, please give the stream a like so that everybody else knows I'm on. I'm always pretty last minute with this, but give me a like, give me a comment. Good morning, and let's get into it. So Juan and Carla, I'm going to keep this up, by the way, because Ikechi, you embarrassed yourself. You embarrassed yourself, and therefore you will be, unfortunately, on my screen for a lot of the episode. I don't have a green screen, so that pillow is just going to be there. So we start off with Juan and Carla, and they go to a love reading. And I want to point out that it is lots of leaning into Carla. We've done tantric yoga, we've done Pilates, intuitive readings. They did another session of couples tantric yoga together. Then Carla's whole emotional child healing thing that she talks about anyways in conversation, I'm sure. I think it's just a little bit too much for Juan. I understand that they're trying to really lean into each other's lives, and maybe next week she'll be in Juan's world a lot, but I just don't think that this is the way that a relationship will go. And I don't think it's the way that they should put things into practice. I think that since they're already struggling to have a romantic connection, doing everything that's centered around Carla is going to make Juan's guards go up even further. It's too much woohoo, too much meditation, not enough grounded thinking, and not enough of picturing him as a life together so much as picturing him in Carla's life, which is what I was saying is, I think, a detriment. They should be doing equal activities. It shouldn't be a full week of just going into Carla when they're already at an awkward point in their relationship. It should be one day you try out tantric yoga. Maybe the next day you go to an arcade together. What's wrong with a movie? What's wrong with a walk? Juan and Carla, it's just, like I said, it's just too much. And I think it's overwhelming Juan. And I think that he's already having issues feeling overwhelmed as is. So I think the activities are bad. The love reader also is picking up on this, and that Juan is sort of not present. He's tapped out. Juan's tapped out of this relationship, if I'm honest. That's my perception of things. And the love reader picks up on this multiple times. She asks him if he's present, which is interesting because the lady who led the tantric yoga session, she came online. She went and she was talking shit about Married at First Sight, and she was just basically and also the couple wasn't nice to me, and Juan wasn't present. So this is the second time we've heard he's not present, but I don't blame him for not being present because it's not activities that he has any interest in, and it's not just occasionally. So regardless of the fact that Carla knows this reader, it's clear that producers impact this because there's no way you opened up these cards, looked there, and saw in them that Juan and Carla were soulmates. I'm calling bullshit. That's not true. Even my optimistic self that 2 weeks ago thought that they were potentially a great match and could offer each other a good balance, now I see that they're not compatible. So I'm calling bullshit on that. If this is your expertise, if you have an expertise area, don't come on Married at First Sight because I don't know what other word to use except for they're going to like bastardize that. Like I can't think of another adjective. They're going to ruin that. They're going to not have you show up in the best way that you would normally show up. So she goes, yes, you guys are soulmates. Whoever put you together did an amazing job. And once again, Juan brings up that he's analytical and he's not going to believe what the cards say just because it says it. He also says that they're trying to work to see if there's a romantic connection. So there's clearly not. And this is also something that's interesting. They're both conventionally attractive. Like objectively, they're both attractive, but yet nothing is happening there. And I think, like I said, it's because it's too much leaning in. Carla should be comfortable to be herself without being like overbearing, I would say. But I also don't want to blame Carla too much because I do think that because Juan is overwhelmed and I do think because his guards are up and he's sort of disassociating, I think Carla is just trying to find common grounds with him. And if they're not going to spend the next week doing a full activities that Juan does in his lifestyle, I think she's literally grasping at straws, sort of like how M is with Ikechi. And it's just sort of like, okay, well, like I want to do this experience. I want to find common ground. So, I'm the only one trying and planning things. Thomas and Camille are boring in the best way possible. They have little to no drama going on. Right now, they're just trying to figure out what their future plans are. They're both locked into separate leases. So they're trying to figure out their living situations after. I felt like this was a completely normal conversation. I still think that they're end game and that they will stay together. And I think they're really the only couple from this season that's properly matched and that could stay together. I also think it's interesting. I've seen a lot of discourse, specifically, Facebook is a cesspit. Opinions are different on every single platform, but I've seen tons of opinions of people who don't like Camille on Facebook. And I find that interesting because first of all, I enjoy her. Second of all, I think Thomas enjoys her. And I find it interesting that her directness bothers so many people at home when it doesn't seem to bother Thomas at all. I think it's interesting that people, and especially women, are reluctant and like they put their guards up at accepting a woman who's just very direct and straightforward. And that kind of gives internalized misogyny to anybody who was on Facebook, mainly white women, with that opinion. Now talking about Ikechi, M, and Dr. Pia's session. These sessions are so frustrating. They're so frustrating because it's always thrown out. A question is thrown out to the both of them. And I understand it's couples therapy, but there's no way that M can do anything in her power to make the relationship better. She can't do anything to improve how Ikechi is communicating with her. She can't change his behavior. So asking and putting things out to her as if she has the power to change their relationship, it's so frustrating. In reality, I understand that because Ikechi is so guarded, especially in his sessions with Dr. Pia, which also reeks of misogyny. I think that Ikechi doesn't like to be told about himself, specifically by women, especially with a woman with success, accolades, intelligence. I think it makes him feel small. So I think he's kind of experiencing that. But nonetheless, I know Dr. P is like trying to work with something, have him not go entirely glaze over the eyes, disassociate from the session and still participate. But you're playing to him too much. We're coddling him too much. The reality is, Dr. Pia, I can't believe that you're not noticing signs or tendencies of narcissism, or at least just like, I don't know what other word to use, a huge ego. You hinted at it when you talked about him putting his pride aside, which was also interesting because I think pride is putting it mildly, because I do, and I hate to just throw around things. I'm not a therapist. I can't diagnose him. I don't want to diagnose someone, but it reeks of narcissism. It doesn't reek of just ego. So anyways, they sit down, talk to Dr. Pia. When he walks in, I mean, it's like I said, the storm cloud follows him. He's always wearing the same outfit. He's always got the same face on. I mean, it's just very one note with Ikechi. You can't say that you don't know what you're getting because you get the same thing every single time, every time. And what bothers me is, so they talk about their last conversation and where things went wrong. And he was mad at M for bringing up things that he viewed as in the past. Quit bringing up the week I didn't talk to you. That's in the past. Let's try to move forward. And it's like, well, first of all, that's not healthy. Okay? Because that did happen. So let's be adults and let's talk this through. But he was upset with her for that. And he uses, in his own words, she tried to tiptoe into the conversation. And M repeats that back and says, I tried to tiptoe into the conversation, and he has to correct her. It just bothers me. All she's doing is repeating what you just said. And as soon as it's said by M and she repeats exactly what you've just said, she doesn't put words into your mouth. She's not speaking for you. She's repeating the feelings that you've articulated, almost to doing that in conversation is a sign of emotional intelligence and that you're grasping what the other person is saying to you, in my mind. So he weaponizes the fact that she is trying. She's still giving him so much grace. She's trying to use his verbiage, not speak for him. He still can't do it. He goes, I don't appreciate half the things that you do. It doesn't feel good to communicate. And at this point, Dr. Pia needs to ask more forthright questions. Why doesn't it feel good to communicate with her? What does she specifically do that makes you feel small? We've heard you say that she makes you feel small. We've heard you say that communicating with her doesn't feel good. Why? Is it a you thing? Is it how you're entering these conversations? What is going on here? And we never get there. And that's why Married at First Sight bothers me. And I think it's important to note it's produced by Kinetic, same company as Love is Blind. I don't think the intention of therapy is really to get anywhere. I think the couples are honestly supposed to struggle. And I think that they're supposed to have things non-reconciled and not worked out so that there's content. That's what I feel like. So Dr. Pia asks if Ikechi wants to be in a marriage. And he doesn't. And this makes M emotional. And he says, his direct quote is, he doesn't have a desire to be in a marriage, nor does he feel like it's a marriage. And it's like, and whose fault is that? Would have been a great follow-up question. And whose fault do you think that is? If we're talking about accountability, where do you think that you fit in that? Good morning, friend. Good morning. I'm so happy to see you in here. I'm talking about Ikechi and M right now in the beginning of last night's episode of Married at First Sight. So M excuses herself to cry, and Ikechi says that he can imagine how she feels. And he's offering a lens of perspective to say how she feels without her present, and I guess sort of speaking for her, which is not something that he appreciates that she does, which is annoying again. And I think that even the way that he talks about her reasons for being emotional is important. What he says to Dr. Pia when she says, and why do you think she's emotional, is, I think she's emotional because things didn't go the way that she wanted. I think that she wanted a husband. And I think that I wasn't him, basically. And you're basically calling her desperate, first of all. You're basically implying that she's throwing some sort of like unreasonable tizzy fit over the fact that things aren't going the way she wanted when you've been giving her nothing. You've been giving her nothing. There's no checking in. There's no texts. You guys don't live together. There's no care. There's no talking about issues. There's no moving forward. So, he did add things didn't go the way he wanted either. But again, whose fault is that? Whose fault is that? So she comes back from the bathroom and talks about what she's learned and how her intention was not to hurt him. Again, he gives her nothing. Dr. Pia has to ask if he receives that. He said that he does. And we still haven't figured out what she did exactly that hurt him. We're just talking about it. We're just acknowledging, yes, you're hurt. Yes, your feelings are hurt. But for what? But for what? We still don't understand. And it feels like there's something missing as viewers. And who knows? The thing that may be missing may just be the fact that they casted somebody who had no sign, no indication of being ready to be married. I'm not sure. But M says that she would like to continue in the marriage, but not the way it's been. I'm going to be honest with you. I really think that when she was in the bathroom, it's not like she goes in there alone. Obviously, producers are coming with her. I think that they're encouraged to stay in the marriage. I do. I think they're encouraged to stay in the marriage. And I also think that M wants to feel like if the marriage and when the marriage collapses, she doesn't want to be blamed. She's already taken the blame unfairly for other things. So as far as leaving a gray spot, she's showing up. She's still down to do things, even though her husband is being horrible to her. And I don't blame her for that position, although I can't imagine being in it. I can't imagine being in it. I really feel for her because I would like for her to just walk away. But again, because I'm trying to add perspective, I understand her reasoning as to why she may not walk away. I don't think it's as simple as Ikechi was saying, where she just wants a husband. He's been saying that the whole time. He's like, she could want anybody. It could be Joe Schmo off the street. Like, she just wanted to take a shower with anybody, not her husband. So I'm not going to give him that. Fast forward to Madison and Allan. Madison is sneaking into the apartment, tiptoeing in, coming into the apartment at an ungodly hour. And I can't believe that she has like made such a big deal out of things that Allan does when she's been going out 3 nights a week. That was shocking. Allan says that there was a couple of shifts in her behavior. And I'm like, yeah, that's because she's cheating. He says this in a positive way, as if she's being more communicative when she's out. And I'm like, listen, I'll tell you the tea. What's happening is it's textbook cheater. She's keeping in contact with you more so that you leave her alone. You have the illusion that you know what she's doing. And now she sort of feels like she has your permission to be out that much. So that's what's going on. She's definitely out with David, and they have so much audacity for doing so. Like, Madison is just doing too much. She did too much at the yoga studio when Michelle was coming forward with the text messages, and she's doing too much now as she's trying to overcompensate with Allan. And I think he picks up on it because he says, where are you getting tacos at 3 a.m.? I get it. I know food trucks are open after the bars. I remember, but still, where are you getting tacos, Madison? Or was your taco with David? Okay. We don't know. Michelle and M go to lunch, and Michelle tells M exactly what she thinks is happening. She fills her in on things, and she's like, so I know that I could be spiraling, but what I think is happening is I think that David texted Madison. And I think that for a couple of reasons. And it's hilarious because she says the exact same things that I said. And I'm not defending Michelle's earlier behavior. To reiterate again, Michelle, the first 10 episodes, I thought was a raging biatch. Biatch, to quote Seth Marks, okay? I thought she was a bitch. I thought she was cold. I thought she was snobby. I thought she was a Karen. I couldn't tell if there was any sort of like racial undertones, hence the Karen for her. I couldn't understand why she was so judgmental. I didn't watch her wedding episode. So just seeing a snippet of her and David kissing, I'm like, and what happened? You're horrible. You're so judgy. But I now think, after hearing Michelle's take on what she thinks is happening, that she's very perceptive. I think that she's very intelligent. I think she's perceptive. And I think she saw through David from day one and that he was deeply unserious. Nobody in the chat or in the comments can convince me that the experts truly believed that David was a good match for her, knowing that they went to his apartment. Listen, I don't judge living at home. I don't even really judge David's living conditions. But when Michelle says in her interview that she doesn't mind somebody living at home, she's picturing like how Nick from Love is Blind was living at home. And to clarify, when Hannah judged him, she was being a bitch, okay? Because he had his own space. It was clean. It was tidy. He was saving money. It made sense. Like, she was being judgmental of him. And there was an age difference. David described his place as being different. The experts saw it. They saw the keg in there. They don't work aligned work schedules. They can barely see each other. David is working nights. Michelle is asleep, which means during the day, David is asleep. And I think he works 2 jobs. Like, on paper, they may have seen 3 things, but past that, you can't convince me that they believed that they were a suitable match. And I think that she thought that David was deeply unserious. I think she felt like the experts played in her face. I think the consistent playing of her tape was gaslighting her. I think that talking to my friend, we watched the episode together. Shout out Nikki if you're listening. We watched the episode together and she was like, you know what? Like, just to say, Michelle saying that she wants someone who's, you know, tall, rough around the edges. They're like, would you mind someone who lives at home? And she's like, no, you know, like, she's not explicitly thinking that she needs to tell the experts like what she wants. Like, she's not thinking that she needs to explicitly tell the experts, I don't want him to have a keg in there. I don't want him to be 3 years away from being ready to move out. I think she felt like it was pretty clear that she wanted someone who was on a similar path and a similar place in life as she was right then and there. And if they didn't just want drama this season and to mismatch 2 couples who shouldn't be together, I don't think they would have done what they did. I think that Madison and David would have been matched from the very beginning. And I think Michelle and Allan would have been matched from the very beginning. So I think Michelle felt rightfully like, you're playing in my face. I'm also curious on the timeline of Madison and David. Yeah, Michelle was being a bitch. She was giving nothing. I still don't forgive her for her comments towards David at the dinner that they went on for their anniversary date. I thought that was really callous. But I think David's got a great edit. And I think that even Michelle's family confirmed that she is cold. They thought she was boring. They thought she was cold. She takes a long time to open up. So I think a lot of her behavior was pretty on par for Michelle. And I think that the reason that she wasn't able to let her guard down was because she was having conversations with David where she felt like he was deeply unserious. And again, the timeline, if him and Madison have been shacking up and on the flirt since day one, okay, then David, your excuse about needing outside validation is moot because you've been getting it since day one. And again, to reiterate, the first 10 episodes, I said, wow, Michelle is so horrible. If I'm David, I'm cheating on her. And not only that, maybe with her friend, because Michelle, you give me no confidence. Like, not that a woman has to constantly a guy's ego, but you're giving me nothing. So I would need outside validation if I was David. That's how I felt. But I've changed my mind. And I also reserve the right to change my mind again. But this is how I feel presently. I think Michelle's intelligent. I think she calls everything exactly as it is. And I think because of that, she felt like, you guys are playing in my face and you're gaslighting me and we're not a match. And you knew that. So she goes to M, back to the lunch, okay? Because that's where I spiraled. Michelle's like, so basically, I think that David texted Madison for a couple of reasons. He's her type, and they were out together at the bar with Allan. I think that there was no photo. I think that he saw her walk in, sent her the text message, and brava, because you're right on the money. You're right on the money. Let's see what the chat says. I agree. Ikechi doesn't like when the mirror is held up to him by a woman, especially a successful Black woman. Especially. Exactly. And I would be so curious to see the difference too with how he communicates with Dr. Pepper, who like we're barely seeing, because I agree. I think that he is more receptive for some reason, misogynoir, I guess, to criticism that's not from a successful Black woman. Oh, Ikechi. Okay, so Michelle knows and M. Okay, initially when I'm watching this, I thought M knew. Because her, to quote, where did I see this? I don't know. She didn't move. Nothing. I don't think she looked that shocked. Now, maybe she felt like Madison was doing too much because she was at the yoga studio. Maybe there's been whispers from Carla. But then as their conversation went on, she's kind of like, I don't know, maybe you're spiraling. So now I don't know. Carla, she knows. Carla knows. She saw. It was purposefully omitted that Juan and Carla were out at the bar that night. But I don't know if M knows. If M knows, it's not her fault in any capacity that Michelle does not know. Because I know producers' games, and they would say, you can't tell her. Are you kidding me? This is going to happen organically and on camera. This is going to happen on camera. The most you can do is ask guiding questions. Like, who do you think it is? No, who do you think it is? Who do you think it is? But that needs to come out at the couples trip. I could see that happening. But even Michelle mentions that she wonders if they're coordinating their gym sessions. And that's what I said since the beginning. It feels like a producer move. Sure, they can't make anybody cheat. They definitely can't. But I think they know people's personalities well enough by the time that they cast people to know that Madison and David may be more inclined to be drawn towards each other and may be more inclined to cheat. I also think knowing that they're both gym buffs, each other's type, and would spend a lot of time in the same gym because all of the couples live in the same apartment building. I think they set this like into motion. I think they at least, sure, maybe they didn't knock the dominoes down, but they set them all up so that everything was ready to fall into order. That is my opinion. It was a very curated environment. So the gym sessions, Michelle knows. Okay. Now what happens? Oh, by the way, going back really quickly to Ikechi and M, because I skipped a couple things, ADHD. So after they decide that they're going to keep working on the marriage, they go across the street to play video games, and we see Ikechi hold M's hand once he's out of sight of cameras. There's a couple of things I wanted to add. Number one, I think Ikechi wants to control the timeline. No, I don't really think his mind was open. No, I don't think he was open to it. I think he was doing what producers told him to do, give it another shot to ultimately arrive at the same conclusion. But I think that even just the basic physical touch, the hand holding or being more open to her was because things were 100% on his timeline now. I feel like he felt like he had punished her enough. He had given her the cold shoulder enough, maybe. Okay. And things were not only on his timeline, but to the level of commitment that he was willing to take on. So listen, I'll show up, but we're going to do an arcade. We're going to do cards. We're not going to do what you want to do. And I feel like he wanted to be the lead. And I think that that's a testament to the narcissism. But I also want to point out, and this isn't giving Ikechi a pass in any capacity, but I do want to point out, I think this experience has been a lot different than what he thought it would be when he signed up twice. And I don't think he's someone who can be produced. I don't think he does well with production. I don't think he does well with the cameras. I think that producers have potentially pushed him a little bit too far. And that on top of how he's feeling about M has made his reactions more. That's what I think. I think he is kind of in a bad spot. I do still think how he's treating her is not justified, but I do think there's a noticeable difference in when he's off camera and the cameras aren't around and they're out of the line of sight to how he's willing to act. So that was the tangent I wanted to go on that. Let's see the chat. Madison got so offended when Allan called her a party girl, but then she went out that same night and all night. Exactly. She was like, party girl, what? And at first, I not me siding with Madison. Like, I was like, you know what? Yeah, if I'm just getting married and I'm the bride and my husband sees me dancing at our wedding and thinks I look slutty and I'm called and it's like, you're sticking your butt out and being provocative. Honey, what? What? That would send me, you know what I mean? So like, I was kind of on her side there. I felt like that was a little shame-y, but you are a club girl. You're a party girl in a party world. And that's that. I don't think Ikechi has ever watched the show. He is so unaware of expectations. That's it. And that's the thing too. Everybody thinks like, oh, like everybody knows what they're getting themselves into. They don't. Even attorneys that go on shows don't know what they're getting themselves into until after they're on the show. There's so many producer secrets that are kept about the show and how things go down. Even if somebody watches the show, I still don't think it's fair necessarily to say that they knew what they were getting themselves into. You know what I mean? But he definitely had something else pictured because listen, bub, you have to film whenever they want. I mean, people are working full-time jobs, filming 5 to 6 days a week for 15 hours and figuring it out and barely sleeping. Like this is a commitment. To do Married at First Sight. And I don't think people realize just how taxing that is when they sign up for it. Okay, I was wondering. Okay, perfect. Thank you for catching from the beginning. I'm so glad it lets you catch up from the beginning. So, David and Michelle talk about the text, which by the way, he asked Michelle, can you stay up? Hashtag you up. Because we need to talk. David, you had her stay up for what? You had her stay up for what? So let's see. I think I had a direct quote on this. Because this was important. Okay, yeah. Michelle and David, he sits down and starts the conversation with, all right, Michelle, I'm going to tell you the real deal. This is the real deal. I'm going to tell you the real deal. I'm going to tell you everything that's been happening. And then for 7 minutes after, he proceeded to not tell her the real deal at all and proceeded to lie to her. And listen, David, like I said, in the beginning, when I thought Michelle was a bitch, I was like, you know what? Cheat on her. But now I'm like, you know what, David? I can't even feel bad for you. And this is why I'm also going back to, I think Michelle kind of saw through David. His commitment to being dumb. I don't even know what other word to use. I can't even think of a more sophisticated word. David is being dumb. Like the commitment to such a dumb story, to just making himself look like a fool on TV, the lack of accountability, even the lack of creativity is pissing me off. You're kidding me, right? At least know how to cheat better. Really? Like, at least know how to cheat better. It's embarrassing. So I'm here to tell you the real deal. Doesn't tell the real deal. I was texting Tiffany, but Michelle, okay, that is because I wasn't getting what I should have been getting in the marriage. And prior to you being the way you're being, David, I kind of would have agreed with you. But because you're being the way you're being, I now sort of feel like you were deeply unserious from the beginning, and Michelle knew that. I just can't feel bad for him. The only person I feel bad for really is Allan, okay? Because I'm still unsure about Michelle. I don't feel bad for David. I don't feel bad for Madison. I don't feel bad for David. He acted like he was still trying while he's messing with other women. Exactly. And that's what I'm saying. Like, how long was he not trying for? I think it was a long time. I think he was texting Tiffany. Yeah, Madison's middle name must be Tiffany. Or bet you this, he probably was texting Tiffany. It was Kiki. It was like, listen, he has a whole list, because he's gone out to breakfast with some girls. He's texting girls. He's talking to his ex. He's also shacking up with Madison. David's not been inside. David's been outside. David's been in the streets the entire time. So please don't try to act like you've been wearing a chastity belt. Poor David. Poor David. I'm so alone. I'm so alone. Listen, David. You've been out. You've been out. As soon as it's like, I don't know. Don't feel bad. So anyways, he proceeds to tell Michelle that he was texting a Tiffany. He deleted her contact right away. He blocked her. What a joke. What a joke. I need to know, no shade. I worked at a bar, was a bartender. Multiple. David, where are you working? Where are both of your jobs? Where does he work at night? Is he a bartender? Because somebody on Reddit was saying that allegedly David was working at a bar. Don't quote me on this, because I have brain damage, in case you didn't know, and I also have ADHD. So don't quote me on this. I swear I read that David was working and living out of the bar that he was working at, and I swear that he got in trouble. Like, so if David is a bartender, I'm here to tell you, or if he owns a bar, especially if he owns a bar, I'm here to tell you that men who are 38 and 40 who own a bar, they're hooking up with the 21-year-olds. They're hooking up with the 21-year-olds. They're hooking up with the new people in town, new at the bar. Like, where were you that Michelle had to stay up so late? Is Madison going out to your bar? That would be a trip, wouldn't it? Wouldn't it? I feel bad for Allan because he has been trying the whole time with no outlet. David got a wall and turned to someone. Yes, I really feel bad for Allan because he is alone. Exactly. He's alone. He's trying. Allan is offering to disfigure himself. He's offering to chop off a toe. Okay. David saying he didn't know he shouldn't be talking to romanticizing other women because they never discussed it is wild. In my opinion, monogamy is the default in this country. David, that's the thing. David has excuses galore. Okay. But you did know that. You did know that. My friend, to play devil's advocate, she made a point and she was like, you know what? It is kind of fair for him to say that because they haven't discussed their boundaries. And I'm like, but is it? How many things does Michelle have to explicitly tell people? Does she have to say to the experts, I want someone who doesn't cheat on me? Like it, and going back, because I don't think I ever finished this thought earlier. Sorry. When me and my friend Nikki were watching, she was like, that would be like me going to the expert and saying, I want someone who's tall. I want someone who's kind. I want someone with great teeth. And then they give her that. Okay. And then he's a cheater. And they're like, well, you didn't say no cheating. You didn't say no cheating. How explicit do we have to be? How explicit do we have to be? And yes, if he didn't think he was doing anything wrong, he wouldn't have hit it. Exactly. Everybody wants to know the same question. How early on into Michelle's relationship did David start talking to the random Tinder dates? Can we also add, why did you still have Tinder? You're married. Married at first sight. I know you don't feel like you're married. I know it's still a dating process, but married at first sight. That implies that all dating apps should be off your fucking phone. Off your phone. What? When he said that, listen, you couldn't put me on this show because people would think I was a horrible person and abusive. People would think I was because you know what? I with all the pressure, all the cameras, you might see throw the phone. What do you mean you got Tinder on there? What do you mean? You can't even order pizza for me before you go to work and you've got Tinder on there? Like, you're lying, David. You're lying. I might have just stepped on the phone, like, no more texting any hoes. What? So anyways, yes, he was living above the bar at his parents' own. He never had his own anything. David. So anyways, where was I? Back to the notes. Okay. To play devil's advocate, there are a couple of valid points, but that do land moot that David made during his conversation with Michelle. The first valid point, Michelle, what does this say? Oh yeah, Michelle didn't want to be married to him. Okay, valid. But what I have to ask, like, what were you doing that made her not want to be married to you? That's my question. Number two, he was feeling rejected. Because like I said, early on, I was like, if I'm David, I'm cheating on Michelle. That's super unfortunate, not nice, but I would, because you're making me feel like shit. You're making me feel like shit. And if I'm going to get fined $60,000 to leave you, then I'm going to cheat on you and make myself happy. And then go to therapy because this show effed me up and my morals. Okay, so that was the second valid point. But I think that you've been getting validation the entire time. I don't think you took this seriously. I don't think you viewed this as end game. And I think that if you were being serious, you would say that I didn't want to be married to you either. Okay, the last valid point he made is that she knows her decision she's making in 2 weeks. Is that unfair for him to speak for her? Yes. Could she not know? Yes. Does she know? Yes. She knows. She knows. She knows. The devil doesn't need any more advocates. My best friend says that every time. David could have just said he felt rejected. Exactly. Exactly. I'm trying to play fair so I don't get the podcast bros in my comments like, all you do is come for the men. Yeah. But like, maybe I do. But you know what? It's valid. Those three things, if David wasn't so committed to being dumb, would have been valid. But as stated, now they're not. Now they're not. Okay? Because I think that he, like I said, I think he was self-medicating. I think he was self-medicating. We can all see it. So just say you don't want to be with her instead of pretending. Exactly. Because that's the biggest thing. That's what makes it moot. You don't want to be with her. Like that's the point. She doesn't want to be married to you. You don't want to be with her. You feel rejected. She feels rejected. Okay. If it's also like interesting that David and Michelle are very much aligned on their ages, and Madison is much younger than David. I think David's 38 and Madison is 29. Like that's a pretty big age gap. You want the young girl. Like you want the young girl. It's also really funny. Okay. We need to point out the fact that Madison's phrasing for what she likes in a guy is somebody who's sophisticated, classy, intelligent, and smart. And David is wearing the shirt that Michelle got him. This is the shirt that Michelle got him because she couldn't stand his style. What are we talking about? So anyways, Madison and Allan talk to Dr. Pia. And Allan mentions that he goes to bed at 9:30 at night and Madison walks in 2 a.m. 3 times a week. Madison's like, first of all, don't put my business out there. Second of all, 3 times a week, it's more like 5. No, but she's defensive. She's instantly defensive. Madison can't sit in the hot seat. Accountability and Madison don't exist in the same sentence. God forbid you turn the mirror back at Madison. So Dr. Pia picks up on this and she's like, is it 3 times a week? You can tell. This is one thing about Dr. Pia that makes me laugh. You can tell when she's judging someone. And I don't blame her. But you can kind of tell like her opinions versus her opinions as a therapist. That's my opinion of the situation. And I don't blame her. How could you not? So Yeah, she's like, is it 3 times a week? And she's like, I mean, sometimes, yeah, okay. So one thing I'm not going to do is change my friends, okay? It kind of is what it is. I'm going to see my friends. And then we learn that when there's a conflict, she wants her friends instead of Allan, which again, where is the comment about Allan? He's alone, okay? Allan is dealing with everything alone. Even after they get into an argument, he's not going to his friends. He's not talking about the dirt in his relationship every single time. So Madison leaves and he's left alone. And he also doesn't know exactly how he should reach out to Madison or when it's appropriate to reach out to Madison because they just don't know each other like that. They just don't know each other like that. Madison left a man with a Maserati for a man who lives in his parents' basement. You can't get the irony anymore. Toya, shout out you. I might be changing my episode title to that and I will shout you out because yeah, I thought it was a Corvette. Okay. So I'm glad you said that. I didn't want to guess what car Allan had because I didn't know. It was nice though. We'll get there. We'll get there. We'll get there to Allan and the teeth. We'll get there to Allan and the teeth. Let me just stay here. So she's defensive. Oh, and her defense is that this is the most she's ever seen someone. And it's like, is it the most you've ever seen someone? Because how often are you guys really together? How often are you guys really together? But Allan's alone and he mentions a dream for the second time. Allan's either connection to the spiritual realm, his ancestors don't like Madison and they're whispering to him, or I don't know, he's clairvoyant, okay? Because every dream he has is telling him something in this process. The first dream that he had was that Madison married someone else in front of him. Okay. The second dream he had is that while Madison is out at the bar, a different guy picks her up. Now, this could also be producer planted lines, but Allan doesn't look like he has a clue. I don't think he has a clue because if he did, he wouldn't be trying for Madison the way that he did. At the end of the episode, and we see the preview for next week when he says, fuck you and fuck her too to David. Yeah. Allan's dreams are trying to tell him Madison and David aren't shit. Exactly. Because his dreams are wild. Like literally, listen, Allan, you should be, maybe you're clairvoyant, okay? Like you need to get out of this situation. Your gut, your dreams, your subconscious is telling you something. And Madison's reaction, what? Oh my God, it's wild. Me getting picked up by a guy. It's not just a guy, it's David. It's David. You know him. You should feel safe. I'm with David. Stupid fucking bitch. Okay. What comes next? I randomly have written, I'll cut off my toe. I don't know if that's when Allan says that, but we'll mention that. Allan offers to cut off his toe for Madison and says that he's down to do anything. I think earlier in the episode, I don't know if I missed this, they went styling. Yeah, that's why I had that written down. They go on a styling trip that Madison sets up, which, by the way, can you do this the first week? If something's going to bother you that much, can you guys do this the first week? Get the woman's touch in there right away. Okay. I don't know. That's my personal opinion. Could that make somebody feel bad? Yes. But if it's really going to bother you that much, okay. Also, Allan looks great. He looked fine before. Now he looks great. Okay. Him hitting the gym, his chest is puffed out different. He feels better. He looks taller for some reason. I don't know. Okay. He grew an inch maybe, but he looks great now. So Allan, I'm excited for you to hit the dating world. Madison's not it, but they go on a styling trip and I honestly like everything that he picked, but it's just a testament to how willing. First of all, Allan does not take a thing personal. Do you know how rare of a quality that is in men? David got a little offended when Michelle said her types were Travis Kelce and Drake, even though he kind of looks like a combination of the two of them. But Allan takes nothing personal. Madison's like, I hate your teeth, I hate your hair, you're weak, you're not a true man, you're wimpy, like you need to go to the gym. And Allan's like, I want my wife to come in and think I'm hot. Like, you can give Allan constructive criticism. And to a point, I almost say Allan needs therapy. Like, as somebody, like, let me just remove myself from the lens of like, I appreciate how willing he is to do things. Allan may need therapy for how willing he is to do things. And it may stem from, what is it called? What's it called when abandonment? It may come from some abandonment issues, because the willingness to be so malleable is admirable. But he's completely willing to let Madison change him when she's not changing herself, nor is she giving any signs that there's a future there, that she's a safe space. And that willingness to overextend yourself and people please, I feel for him. I've been there. It's a journey I'm still on, but I would say that there's something there that could be worked through in therapy. If I had on one of my friends who's in therapy, I would ask them their opinion on that. But I love the fact that he doesn't take things personally. And I love the fact that he at least cares about his wife's opinion. Allison, I almost said Allison. Allan needs therapy. It reminds me of how much his mom was fighting for custody for him, even though she was up against someone with a lot of money. 10 years is a long time to fight. Absolutely. And that stems, that's why I mentioned abandonment issues. That has to add something. So, couples trip. Okay, I misnumbered my pages. Okay, so Thomas and Camille, again, like I said earlier, they're pretty boring, okay? But in the best way possible. There's not very much drama going on. They just are happy with each other. They're having good sex. They're eating, literally and physically. They're eating, okay? The whole thing is going well. Pastor Cal is always funny to me because you can tell when he's making a nod to someone's sex life. Just a random note. Okay, Juan talked to his friend and he talked about how he's analytical and how it's just a lot for him. And his friend's like, oh, like I've done tantric yoga before, I'm familiar. And when Juan was talking about living with Carla, he said living with her is fine, but the romantic connection is lacking. They're just not they're not going to end up together. There's just no way. I can't believe I missed the lack of compatibility earlier, but it's just not happening. It's just not happening. I will say it is interesting because Carla seems pretty open to all of Juan's quirks. Like, I think one morning on the honeymoon, he woke up really early and started the day off singing, opened up all the blinds and jumping on the bed. I would be bullshit over that. So I think Carla is very accepting of Juan. And so I sort of think that because she's giving that, she was sort of expecting that back for him. But I still think it's fair for him that that's too much. Okay, so I talked about Madison Allan's, I'm going to keep calling him Allison. Madison and Allan's styling trip. But to quote Madison directly, she wants his style refined, because Madison clearly gives refined, right? No. She wants classy, smart, sophisticated. And this is the first time, by the way, during this trip that she told Allan a compliment. She's never once said that she's physically attracted to him throughout the entire time. They haven't kissed since their wedding day. So her telling him that he looks hot is the first compliment. And it had him feeling great, getting ready to buy everything. I just feel so bad for him. On the way to the couples trip, Allan bought the teeth whitening kit. I don't even know what this is. From the Smile Direct Club. I don't know. All I know is they're expensive. This is where Madison is cruel. Okay? You're pointing out his teeth. He's feeling self-conscious. He's feeling like he has to make all of these changes in himself. And you're not even staying. acting like you need to make these changes because you know how Allan should be for someone else when there's probably someone, definitely someone who would love him just as he is very odd. It's really odd. Like, I don't understand that. And I think it's really mean. And this comes up, Allan says, because Madison said in conversation that she appreciates a good set of teeth. I don't know how we got from point A to point B. I don't know if Madison said, and your teeth aren't. I don't know if he asked, do you think I have nice teeth? And she said, maybe we could like straighten them up a little. Like, I don't know how that happened. But again, putting this insecurity into him on something that he liked, his smile. And again, his teeth are healthy. Not everybody needs like veneers or like a perfect set of white teeth. He has healthy teeth. That's really rude. It's really rude. It's very nitpicky. It's cruel. You're not going to stay with him. And all of this for David. All of this for David. So David decides to show up to the couples retreat and nobody knows, according to him. I think he definitely texted Madison, and I think that that's why he's going. Please put in the chat if you think that David was forced to come to this couples trip, or if you think that he just wanted to spend time with Madison, because I'm really curious. Where am I? Okay. Madison. Okay, Madison and Allan are the first couple to get there after they've been talking about his smile and all this stuff. And they go in there. They have the biggest room. It's surprising to me that they are going to share a room since they don't at home. And Madison says that they're allowed to take a bath together with bathing suits. This isn't friends at first sight, okay? You didn't sign up for MAFS, Madison, okay? You didn't sign up for MAFS. It's not friend, okay? It's not Friendship Island. It's not friends at first sight. It's married at first sight. And we're taking baths and bathing suits. Get over it. I can't. Anyways, David shows up, the epitome of style that he is. What is it? The epitome of being refined, classy, smart, sophisticated. So what does he show up wearing at first? Black t-shirt, yellow basketball shorts, or swim trunks, not quite sure. And that just butters Madison's biscuit. That just butters Madison's biscuit. Yep, I think David thinks it's worth it to get a couple of moments of Madison. Yes. When David shows up, the audacity to say, like, to Allan, the one whose wife he's fooling around with, nobody made me a drink. Nobody made me a drink. And then Allan is waiting on David and making him a drink. And Michelle is letting this happen. What is her name? Madison is letting this happen. David's mean. David's mean, and that's really entitled. That is so like, this is my house now. Everything that he's doing is like passive aggressive to taunt Allan without him knowing. That's what I think. I'm more comfortable here than you should be. So Allan gets him a drink, and Ikechi, okay, everybody, Allan also, by the way, made dinner. So not only does he have a Maserati, not only does he have a stable job, not only does he have a cute dog, he can cook, okay? So he cooks shrimp for dinner. I don't know with what else. He cooks shrimp. Ikechi shows up. He has a shellfish allergy. It's not funny because I know that somebody can get seriously hurt. But as I was watching with my friend, she was like, we should start a rumor that Allan cooked shellfish just because he knew that Ikechi couldn't eat it. I'm like, yeah, but I don't think that happened. I don't think Allan really did that. But so Ikechi can't eat dinner and he can't be in the room because of the throat and whatnot. So him and M step away to the side to talk. Now, as M was in the middle of eating her dinner, Ikechi walks in and tries to eat her up instead. What a flop. What a flop. He slides her this green folder and he's like, oh, wait, I'm sorry. This is actually too many papers. He slides her this green folder And he's like, I just thought that I would pull you aside. We would talk privately. This has been some moments have been good. Some moments haven't been good. And I think that you would agree, but we're just going to end this now. So I brought you divorce papers and I would appreciate if you would sign this. So he slides it over to M. She opens it up. Where's M? I know I have a picture for my background. There we go. She opens it up and she's like, are you for real? Are you for real right now? Like, okay, so it was one paper. You're giving me one paper. Where's the rest of this? There's nowhere to sign. This is not a legal document. And she tells him, and that's the thing. He did this on purpose to humiliate her. In my eyes, that's narcissism. She couldn't have a fun trip. She was going here. She's going with Michelle. You weren't supposed to be there. The plan wasn't that you were coming. This was supposed to be a time for her to be with everybody, have a good time, let her hair down, and you have to ruin it. And you have to do it on camera. I know that producers are pushing you to, but you have to do it on camera. And then you want to do it in front of this group to make her embarrassed. But instead, you embarrass yourself because, as stated with 6 little words, she just it just crumbles. She said, this is not a legal document. Okay. There's nowhere for me to sign. I won't be signing this. And she's like, oh, and when she said this is one paper, by the way, where's the rest of them? She was like, where's page 2? Where's page 3? Where's page 4? You think I'm going to sign this? Get out of here. You wasted your drive. So anyways, he tried to ruin her night and didn't, because she is honestly probably used to him trying to ruin her night, but also because she was determined to have some joy. Okay. So she goes back to the table, and Juan was so bothered by Ikechi's conversation. His facial expressions were so funny. So funny. He literally was like the stank face at Ikechi while he's talking to M, trying to figure out what are you saying to her. And he brings up, why would he do this in front of us? Exactly, Juan. Exactly. Because he wanted to embarrass her. And then Juan also brings up, this isn't a good example for the kids. This isn't a good example for the kids he's teaching. Yeah, yes, because it's not. And Juan was way too middle ground earlier in the show. It's not a good example, okay? And then Michelle's like, but you know what? That's the thing. I don't think he's being a bad example because I think that he thinks he's the victim. Where's the applause button? Applause, audience applause, like the stream. That's the applause. I can't. Hilarious. You're not the victim. I know, finally someone said it, because I wasn't going to be the first person to say that it's a bad example for his students, but Juan said it, and it is. Wasted gas just to look foolish. Then he leaves on his way out. They interview him, and he's like, I'm going to sleep. Actually, he had his glasses on and then took them off. I'm going to sleep peacefully tonight. No, you're not. And maybe you will. But a year from now, when this episode goes live and all of a sudden you saw your book tanked on Amazon to 1 star because people aren't liking you, you're not going to sleep peacefully. You're going to have a cringe. Be like, ah, why did I do that? Okay. So, yep, he thinks he's a victim. He definitely thinks he's a victim. Michelle, clock it. Yes, he thinks he's a victim. And then Thomas, I love Thomas. Thomas is like, yeah, so I couldn't really connect to Ikechi because he doesn't talk about anything except other people's experiences. He doesn't have the self-reflection. All of us are reflecting on ourselves during this journey, trying to be better. And all he talks about is everybody else. Exactly. So I loved Thomas and Juan's take. Thank you. And Michelle. So, are you kidding me? How do I show this? Whatever. Wait, does it work from back here? Okay. I had the layout for the table drawn. What sends me is that Michelle is sitting next to David, but who's across from David is Madison during this dinner. Okay, it's Madison during this dinner. And as everybody is going around and sharing their updates on the relationship, Matt, I think we started with, I don't know who we started with, okay? But basically Michelle's like, David's turn. David wants to go. And David's like, does David want to go? And then he starts talking about himself in third person. Like, David, where are you going, dear? What are you doing? Does anybody remember that Mickey Mouse song? What are you doing, David? Okay, so he talks about himself in third person, and he talks about his marriage and how it wasn't really what he thought, blah, 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 blah. And I don't know, I'm going to be so honest. Number one, I morning gardened, so I'm going to mess this up. Number two, somehow I didn't take notes on the best part of the show. You've got to be shitting me. So basically, this is from memory. This is off the cuff. David's talking about himself in third person somehow. Okay. After they talk, Allan tries to interject. Allan tries to interject and offer his opinion on David texting other women. Michelle's basically like, listen, David's trying to act like he apologized to me and like he's this great person. No, he's not, because actually, David lied to me the first 7 times that I asked him. And until a few days ago, when I called his cousin, and his cousin told me I was actually covering for him, woman to woman, he's definitely on the cheat. He was lying to my face. And Madison, for no reason at all, doesn't want to talk about this. For no reason at all. She's like Allan tries to offer, because I think Michelle says, have you guys kissed since your wedding day? And Allan's like, no, we haven't. Because that's the thing. David was trying to justify him and Michelle not kissing since the wedding day as to why he's out and talking to other women. And Allan's like, listen, I haven't been out talking to other women, and we haven't kissed since wedding day either. David's dumbass interjects, and he's like, I wouldn't say too much if I was you, Allan. Like, I'm fucking your woman. Like, it was very cynical, very maniacal. David, the audacity. When he said that, like, let me pull up the face. I had it up earlier. This is the face he made as he's saying that. I wouldn't say anything if I were you, Allan. I've been inside, Madison. Like, it was just really scary. Like, okay, listen, I don't know how Allan didn't clock that, because I would have been like, what are you trying to say? Why shouldn't I say anything? Huh? I'll be at the next gym session. But so, yeah, where was I going with this? Yeah, basically, Allan is like, yeah, so I'm not cheating. And David's like, yeah, you're not cheating, but Madison is. So if I were you, I would keep quiet. That's basically what he says. And this is the point where Madison's like, I don't want to talk about this. Obviously, because you're out smooching. You've been kissing everybody, okay? Cleo, Cliff, little Mo with a gimpy leg. You've been smooching everybody, okay? So that's why you don't want to have this conversation. That's why you're walking out and removing yourself, because you don't want to be caught. You feel awkward. You know that you're in Allan's relationship isn't great right now, because you're like in the club with David. You're squatting on David's rack. Like, you guys are racking each other's backs in the gym. It's nuts. It's nuts. So you guys have been going to the gym together. Madison gets up. She's like, I'm packing and I'm leaving. Leave, bitch. Because honestly, it'll probably be more fun without you. And if you leave, then you're going to put David in a position where he would follow you. And then it's going to look even shadier. He'd be like, you know what? I actually just got a call from my work. I have to go. And then Madison is like 6 streets up, like waiting. She like had the Uber take her there. And her and David are like, around town. So yeah, that's not what really happened though, because instead, when Madison trots off, Michelle is like, that was weird. She's like, that's funny, but not ha ha funny. Ha ha, like that was fucking weird. You're fucking David, aren't you? Aren't you? In the shirt that I made him wear. Funny. So Michelle knows. She's like, that was weird. Why is she doing that? I think everybody knows and sat silently because they're like, what's her problem? Why is this about her now? Allan is cheersing and making a speech about how him and whatever freaking name is, Madison's relationship is good. And that bothers her. Like, he's like, and cheers to me and Madison because I am actually not cheating on her, even though we haven't kissed. And she's like, don't talk about that. So anyways, we get a preview for next week. Actually, David got a call from his bartending job, so him and Madison are going to go party, literally. Actually, I have some friends coming over to the my basement apartment, my basement condo, the Bondo, and we're going to be, drinking the keg. That's what David said. And Madison's like, I'll be there because that's so refined. Oh my God, David, you're so sophisticated. That's like the sickest thing ever. So anyways, in the preview, and let me pull up my Bondo. Oh my God, this is like chaotic. Let me pull up the photo so that I can accurately get this right. Okay, so in the next week's preview, we see them play a game, and Michelle's got her little whiteboard, and the question is, who in here is most likely to be cheating? And Michelle says, David. Okay. Why? Because he already did. Okay. So good question, guys. You basically are just asking who's already cheated. Okay. Then we see Michelle go in the kitchen with Allan, and she's like, hey, psst, come here. They go to the gym together. Do you think they have each other's phone numbers? And Allan's shocked. Allan is shocked. I don't believe that he had any inclination. I don't think that he had any idea. So Allan's like, And then she's like, do you think that they like text each other and stuff and coordinate their gym stuff? And he's like, well, that would be disturbing. And then we see Michelle go to Madison privately, and she's like, was the text for you? Like, I don't want to think it was for you, but was the text for you? And Madison's like, it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be. What? What kind of response is that? It shouldn't be? Why not? What the fuck? No. David did not send me that. If David sent me that, I would have texted you a screenshot right away and been like, is David okay? Did our contacts get mixed up? Like, the reaction that would have came from me if I didn't do that would be like, me? Did he text me that? No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. But instead, yeah, you can see her. Okay. That's the face. That's the face that we get. That's not the face you want to make if your friend asks you if you're boning her husband. That's not the face you want to make. But David can, in fact, top Madison's audacity. They take partners in crime to a whole new level because David says to Allan in the preview, Allan, actually, we don't know that. Actually, we do know it's Allan because we see his reaction. We know it's Allan. I almost said they might be playing with us here. Hold on. David's like looking at Allan. He's like, dude, your wife knows me better than my own wife. That's why I love her. Dude, give your wife to me. She knows me better. And Allan's like, so fuck you and fuck her too. I know that's right. He's got the boots on the ground. He's gonna punch the cabinet. He's gonna kick things all around. Allan is mad and he was sad, but Madison's not around. Listen, I don't know what to say. Madison and David are both terrible liars, and Allan is last to the party. Michelle started to figure it out. Allan is still trying to figure it out. Oh, yeah, with the mystery black one, it's David. It's David. David. So David did it. Next week, we'll finally see things come to a head. I need to see the confrontation. I need to see them come to a head. I need to see what happens. I don't know what the preview is with Madison eating ice cream. It looks like from David's hand, I'm assuming. But yeah, general sentiments. Ikechi, you're embarrassing. M, I'm so glad that you're not with him anymore. The experts should have matched David and Madison together from the beginning. They should have matched Michelle with either Juan or with Allan. Okay. I don't know if M's match is in this group. I'm not convinced. Maybe Allan, I have her potentially paired with. I don't know. I feel like Carla could potentially have been a match with Allan as well because he's so accepting. But pretty much M, Carla, Allan, Michelle, Ikechi, Juan, not so sure that they have a match. Like, I'm not so sure that they had a match. Michelle wanted a light-skinned black guy. That's interesting. I didn't watch any of the matchmaking episodes and hear the things that they wanted in the beginning. Michelle and Allan have been flirting a bit online, though. Interesting. And I'm also curious, what is Juan's type? And what is Carla's type? Because again, two both conventionally attractive people, they're not into each other. What's going on? So that's confusing me. So anyways, everybody, thank you for tuning in. All 10, 11 of you. I love you all. Thank you for all of your feedback. It's so much more fun to review and talk about shows when all of you guys are participating. What's the next thing? Juan said he never dated a Latina. Wow. That's kind of shocking. I didn't see that coming. Okay, that's shocking. That's very interesting. So, I don't know. Juan and Michelle may have worked out, and I don't think Carla dated a Latina. Interesting. Very interesting. I think it was the first for both of them. So this is such an interesting dynamic. That's such an interesting dynamic. Yeah, I truthfully think that the experts, like I think that at least 4 people don't have a match here. I think at least 4 people just don't have a match. I think Thomas and Camille, I think they're a good match. I stand on that. I do think they're a good match. Could Michelle and Juan have been a match? Potentially. I don't know. All right, guys, have an amazing day. I forget what show I'm going to be recapping next, but probably Traders. I'm probably going to do an audio podcast episode where I talk about the Grammys and just a bunch of other things going on, but I want to show my face for Married at First Sight because love it. Have a great day, everybody. Bye.